Hi, guys. Welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's October 7th, 2023. And I'm here with Eli. And Eli, it just feels like we said, oh, there's a couple more weeks left of summer. And now it's already October,
Yeah.
right?
Where has the
So
time
we're
gone?
dealing
That's
with,
for sure.
yeah, it's just been flying by where we're turning into fall, kind of another dreary day in New Jersey. But
Yeah,
lot
unfortunately.
of stuff to talk about. And before I turn it over to Eli for this week's monologue, I wanted to you guys can see that we have our logo and the name and our scores on the bottom in pink, and that's in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Which great idea, Eli. It looks really sharp, and it's a real serious thing that people should take seriously. And Major League Baseball, they wear pink shoes and swing pink
Absolutely.
bats, and we support the women out there who've been through something like that and hope that it just absolutely goes away. Great idea.
Absolutely. Thank you very
So there's
much.
a lot of stuff to talk about, but of course, we always start with our monologue that's sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. So, Eli, you have
Yeah,
the monologue this week. And
before we
Andrew,
get to
thank
them.
you for coming. Yep.
All right, yeah. Let me get the graphic ready to go. And yeah, it's a big, busy week again in the National Football League. And today's monologue, I'm gonna reflect on the New York Giants. I know a lot of people are not a huge fan of what happened with the New York Giants on Monday night in particular, as it was a rough game and a rough road to continue on for this New York Football Giants team.
You don't know how rough it was for a Giants fan, believe me.
And I can only imagine how how every Giants fan was feeling, especially we were there at the game. We felt it, how the Giants fans were, and
Sure.
the Giants fans were not happy clearly. And well, I'll tell you why. Versus the Seattle Seahawks game, not only did they lose 24-3, they gave up 11 sacks. They only allowed 3 points. They only scored 3 points. Had 202 interceptions, including a 97-yard pick six from Davon Witherspoon, the rookie, and four different players got multiple sacks for Seattle. That is something you don't see every day for the New York
Yeah.
Giants. And for the fact that could happen was strange, weird, and absolutely crazy. The New York Giants are off to a weird start. And the reason why I say weird start is because they were this playoff team last year that everybody had so much hype about that this could be a good team. There's never been a repeat in the NFC. They could have it this year. Based off of this 4 weeks that we've seen from this Giants heading into week 5, it's been horrible. And it's gonna get worse for this Giants team. I picked it. I picked the Giants to be this year's NFC winner. It looks like I'm wrong because after that performance, it's just getting worse. You take a look at the schedule. They have Miami Dolphins this week, and
They do.
Miami, is a good team. Keep in mind about that. However, they did lose to Buffalo 40-20, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
rough road ahead. They have Buffalo following on Sunday night, and then the Commanders. Saquon is Saquon when you look at his factor and part of the Giant statement. He is
Yep.
injured. He's facing troubles at times, but Saquon is
Yep.
Saquon. He is, he's a glue to this team, but despite him not being there, it's trouble. In conclusion, the Giants are in a rough spot and it's just going to get worse. Play calling has to get better. Brian Dable needs to do what he did last year in order to continue the success of the New York Giants. If not, it's another washout year in New York, as we've seen
Yep.
washout in baseball and now possibly football as well.
Okay. Hey, listen, outstanding monologue because I'm living through this. I'm watching it. I'm a Giant fan, although I'm not jumping off the ship. There's still a lot of football to be played. Things can turn around, but
Absolutely.
right now, yes, they do look um, disappointing to say the least. There's holes all over the place, and Dable's trying to do what he can to keep this together, but Daniel Jones is going to get hurt. You get sacked 11 times, and those weren't just they tripped him up a little bit and he fell to the ground. They put his nose into the dirt each and every one of those sacks, and you can't win football games if your quarterback doesn't have time to throw. So I agree with you, and I know you were at the game, being a loyal Seahawks fan. So
Yes, I
you must
was.
be loving life that night.
I was. And yeah, I was living life for sure because Seattle won 11 sacks he gave up. I mean, that was amazing. And watching all the Giants fans
Yep.
leave at third
Yep.
quarter, you had fireworks, which I had no idea they were going to do that during the national anthem 3 times. I got a little jumped up a few times, but yeah, not bad though. It was a
Good.
great game. Loved it.
All right.
Absolutely great for Seattle. Go Hawks as they have a bye
Yeah.
this week.
Okay, very good, very good. And we're going to come back to the NFL.
Yes.
But I first want to jump into what was kind of big news, the Ryder Cup, and we've talked about this. You know how I love watching the Ryder Cup, and you know what? This was kind of a beatdown. The Europeans really took it to the U.S. this time, and it's so intense. I mean, these guys are just at each other's throats. It's amazing the competition of what the Ryder Cup means to them. But Europe really, you know, after the first day, they had such an insurmountable lead. And then there was just, you know, little backstories, and Scotty Scheffler didn't have, you know, a Scotty Scheffler type performance in the Ryder Cup. And, you know, you could look all over the place. I don't think Zach Johnson did a bad job. I think just, you know, maybe the one question on the team, I wouldn't have played Ricky Fowler. I think I would have selected Keegan Bradley for the U.S. team, but that's hindsight and looking back. They had a great lineup, a lot of young kids, couple of new timers, right? Sam Burns and Brian Harman. These were first time Ryder Cups going against, and like we said, it was McIlroy, it was Rahm, it was Shane Lowry. These guys, they're experienced Ryder Cup guys, and they just took it to him. But there's a lot of intensity. There was some discussion and heated discussions, and a couple of with McIlroy and Patrick Cantley's caddy and all those kind of things. So always a lot of backstories. But you know what? They earned that win in Italy. I'll be back on U.S. soil at Bethpage Black coming up in the next 2 years, which is an unbelievable golf course. I've been there. I went to a U.S. Open there. Beautiful venue. So hopefully we'll get revenge. But right now, the Europeans are drinking the champagne, and the U.S. is licking their wounds. So
yeah.
And there was one story though that kind of, I was going to bring this up on random points of interest, but we might as well bring it up here. Was this controversy with Patrick Cantley not wearing a hat because he wasn't getting paid to wear that hat? And it was kind of strange, and I hope it's not true. I saw the interview with him after his match that he did win, and he denied that this was all baloney and so forth. And I hope it is, because the Ryder Cup is not about making money. It's about representing the United States, and I just hope that's not a true story, because I've been a big fan of Patrick Cantley. I knew he's one of the young guns coming up, and he's great for the game of golf, but it was kind of an odd story.
Absolutely. So that's an interesting story and interesting take there, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. And one interesting other thing was, like I said, the only live golfer on the U.S. team was Brooks Koepka, who played well, right? And he usually does. He's that caliber of player. But, you know, he did come out against Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth saying, you know, basically, F these guys. You know, somebody waved $180 million in my face, and, you know, I took it, and I got nothing to be ashamed of, even though I disagree with it. You know my feelings on live golf. But this guy Koepka, you know, he's a fiery type guy. And but these guys, you know, they were on the same Ryder Cup team, but once the PGA season starts, it's an individual sport. A lot of good things, though. It was a really good event. The coverage was excellent by NBC, and
yes.
You know, congratulations to the Europeans.
And on to a different topic real quick for golf related. Did you hear about this TGL golf? It's like a simulator golf thing.
I did. I think we even talked about it, but I didn't really know what it was. I think it's it's almost like a virtual golf thing. And
that's what I saw. Well, apparently ESPN got the rights for it, the US media rights for it, which I saw that was pretty huge for ESPN. But apparently it's like this indoor simulator golf, which I thought that was really cool. And we'll see if it changes the game of golf, because, you know, you're used to playing on grass and all kind of weather conditions. Now you're playing indoors in a simulator. It's gonna be very weird, but I want to take a look at that when it comes available because it's
I'm
interesting.
curious myself, but I don't see this being a
A
long-term
success,
thing, you know.
right? Yeah.
But listen,
For the
ESPN
new
and
people, I see for the new people that they're gonna like the new young generation, they're gonna enjoy it because they're used to going to simulators and having all that fun with that. Like, I know like a lot of older people and I mean even some younger people, I know they'll disagree with the actual terms of golf. And I honestly disagree with that too, because I enjoy the regular golf rather simulate than simulation version. But
yeah,
we'll see how it turns
that's
out
why I don't see this as a long-term thing. It's a short thing. And
temporarily.
the reason that ESPN picked it up is because Tiger Woods is the one behind it. Him and McIlroy. It's
Right.
their league. It's their
Right.
league. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting thing. There's going to be like 6 teams of three golfers, and some of these are PGA Tour players, so they're all in on it. So they must be getting no question about that, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting thing. We'll see how that pans out. But you're right, ESPN did pick it up.
Yes.
So let's talk about baseball for a little bit, Eli, because season finally ended.
Yes. Thank God.
Mercifully for the Yankee and Met fans.
Yeah.
And Buck Showalter gets fired, right? And you know my feelings. I'm a big Buck Showalter fan. It's not his fault. These guys didn't produce like they were expected to, and the whole
Right.
Verlander Scherzer thing, which people say didn't work out. And I'm like, wait a minute. These guys were pitching pretty decent. Yeah, they're going to miss games because they're in their 40s now. So but I don't think they were the reason the Mets didn't win. I mean, last year
Right.
McNeil won a batting title. This year he hit 260, right? You expected Francisco Alvarez after that is really hot start in the beginning of the year. I mean, he didn't get a hit for the next 3 months,
Yeah.
So they had the young kids, but a lot of turmoil going on with the Mets right now. Billy Epler resigns, and I don't know the backstory with that yet, but it actually made sense when Steve Cohen introduced David Stearns to run the team. That didn't really make the general manager
Much sense.
spot. Yeah, so it's either that, but there's also some discussion about he's being invested by Major League Baseball about doing
Yeah.
something with the
saw
injured
that.
list. Yeah,
We'll
I
have to
don't
keep
know
you
what
posted.
that is.
We obviously
Yeah,
don't know fully all the details yet, and it's too early to tell. I think everybody's now focused on the playoffs and where that will take a turn at. And wild card just ended. You got the regular divisional round game starting today, so
yeah.
I think they're going to move along and take a little time before they get back into that situation.
Yeah, and you look at what the Mets are going to do, right? A lot of the speculation that 2024 is just going to be a rebuilding year. There's still some discussion about whether they'll sign Alonso, which obviously they should.
Right.
But we'll see. But there's free agents out there, right? Juan Soto's going to be available. This guy Yasumoto from Japan is a pitcher, and the Mets are going to consider, so they could turn this around and spend a lot more money. But that, as we saw this past year, that doesn't guarantee you're going to win the World Series. So
absolutely not. And we'll
right?
obviously have to take a tell. The game starts today. Just to remind everybody the schedule. Texans Orioles 1:03 p.m. on FS1. Twins Astros 4:45 p.m. on FS1. Phillies versus Braves 6:07 p.m. on TBS, and Diamonds Dodgers 9:20 p.m. on TBS. 2 games tomorrow, 2 games on Monday. Fox coverage will begin on Tuesday, but Fox owns FS1, so FS1 is going to be the channel for the next few days. And yeah.
And I think that the most intriguing of these divisional matchups for me is the Rangers and the Orioles, right? Because we haven't seen the Orioles be formidable for a while, but they came on after the unbelievable start by the Tampa Bay Rays. Well, they're out of it now.
Right.
And the Orioles held on. And the Rangers, of course, they spent a lot of money. I think that's going to be a great series. The other one, though, was interesting, was the Twins, who won their first playoff game in the last 18 tries to make the divisional thing against the Astros. So that's an interesting thing. The Phillies Braves, though, I mean, Phillies are playing really good baseball. I still think the Braves are the best team in baseball. And if you just look on paper with the years that these guys have had, they should win this. But you can't rule out the Dodgers, although I think the Dodgers pitching is going to be their Achilles heel again this time around. But great series, and they all start today. And I think, this was 4 wild card series, and all 4 of them ended with a 2-0 sweep.
Absolutely. Right? ESPN had those games, and it was they're all disappointed clearly because they wanted that extra day of pay, and they didn't get it.
Yep. So of course, what happens in Major League Baseball after your teams don't, right? Buck gets fired. It looks like Boone will be back, although the Yankees have a lot of holes to fill, so it's going to be an interesting offseason for them. Phil Nevin gets fired, and Gabe Kapler got fired. So there's always going to be that manager carousel, that happens in Major League Baseball because it's a long, long season. We saw in the beginning, the Pittsburgh Pirates were off to this great start, and they gave the manager a 3-year contract extension 20 games into the season, and they finished where everyone expected them to, 15 or 20 games under 500. So you never know. One other quick thing on baseball before we move on is Sandy Alcantara from Miami, who is going to miss the entire 2024 season for what else? Tommy John surgery, right?
Yep.
And this was kind of going to be, I have a monologue all set for next week, and I was going to bring this into it a little bit, but you're just seeing more and more of these Tommy John surgeries today than back in the 70s and 80s and even the 60s. Those guys, Drysdale, Koufax, and them, they pitched every day, every year, never missed it. And why is that happening now? Interesting thing, but that's a big loss for the 2022 Cy Young Award winner.
Absolutely. And for those watching at home, we want to thank you again for watching. And please feel free to comment anytime throughout the show. Send us an email at sportswithmono@gmail.com or tweet us at sportswithmono.
Excellent. And we already got a comment from Andrew Carolyn, who obviously is a longtime listener. We actually had him on the show a few months back.
Oh, wow.
He loved the pink touch too, and I do also. So thank you, Andrew. Okay, so let's start with college football, right? And let's jump right into it because today there's a big football game, and it's the Red River rivalry with Texas versus Oklahoma. It's like the 118th meeting between these guys, and the actual long-time record, I think in the past 70 games or something, it's actually tied, like 33 and 3 or something. But this is always a game that I have watched my entire life. When Steve and I were growing up, we never ever missed an Oklahoma-Texas game. And now it's relevant again, right? Because Texas is the number 3 team in the country. Oklahoma's got an incredibly dynamic offense with Dylan Gabriel at quarterback. Their defense is not giving up points.
Right.
And Texas with Quinn Ewers there, and he's having the year people expected him to when he initially committed to Ohio State and then transferred to Texas. He's living up to expectations. So that's a big game today, and that's at noon. So it's an early game, which it usually is. But you think people aren't psyched about that? Oof.
Right. Yeah, I was watching a little bit of Game Day this morning and a little bit of the Pat McAfee show yesterday. Really cool environment. Playing at the Cotton Bowl next to the State Fair. Looked like a lot of fun to be there. And can't wait to see that matchup. And man, it's gonna be a good one to watch. Can't wait.
Yeah, here's a funny story. I was telling somebody about when I was in Dallas one time, and it was at the State Fairgrounds where Cotton Bowl is.
Right.
And I actually climbed over the fence and went onto the field at night on the Cotton Bowl field, the same end zone that Joe Montana threw the touchdown pass that he was sick at halftime, and that was kind of a thrill. I was young at the time, so. But
wow, look at you being a daredevil. That was interesting. Daredevil Jim, wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
All right.
Right, but a couple other things, and there's an observation I wanted to bring up because I watched Georgia Auburn last week, and listen, Georgia's got like a 22-game winning streak, But the tight end they have, this guy Brock Bowers, he's got to be a Heisman Trophy candidate because he is awesome. He's the best tight end in college football. He'll be a #1 draft pick. And Auburn gave them all they could handle, but Georgia is Georgia, and that's why they're the #1 team until somebody knocks them off. So you got them, you got Michigan #2, Texas 3, and Ohio State 4, right?
Yep.
But here's an interesting fact, right? Something we haven't said this in probably 20 years. Guess who's not in the top 10 right now?
Who?
Alabama.
Yeah.
Right?
Alabama. Yeah.
Right? That's almost hard to even say. I mean, this has been the dominant program in college football for a very long time, but that's unusual. But
Absolutely.
Don't count them out. There's still a long way to go. Couple other big games. First of all, I watched also Caleb Williams and USC against Colorado last week, and they put up big numbers. So all the discussion about Caleb Williams going to be the #1 draft pick. I think that's a foregone conclusion. It's just a matter of who's going to get him. But he's putting up unbelievable numbers. And Notre Dame had a tough win against Duke, right? We talked about Duke football, right? Proverbial basketball school, and now they've got a good football team. Kentucky's got a big game today. So college football is starting to heat up. I love it. It's great, but keep an eye on Georgia. And I was really, really impressed with their quarterback, this kid Carson Beck, who sat behind Stetson Bennett for 2 years, could have transferred, could have went anywhere, but he wanted to play for Georgia and Kirby Smart, and he looked really good. But he's got one hell of a tight end to throw to. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
So here's something we talk about a lot, Eli, right? Rutgers being in the Big Ten, right? And can they compete on this level? Well, they got a big test today. Even though that this isn't the Wisconsin team that was always in the hunt for a national championship, but they're a real good football team. They're 4-1, I think, or 5-1, and Rutgers is 5-1,
yes.
maybe. So this is a big test for them. They got to go into Wisconsin. So this is what we call a turning point for programs like Rutgers.
Right.
Because, the Big Ten now has not only the same, teams that they've had for years, but now you got to play teams like Nebraska and Michigan, and now USC and Oregon are in the Big Ten now. So the landscape is changing. It's a big test for them today. As is Ohio State, and here's an up-and-coming team, Maryland, right? A couple of years ago, that program was in disarray, and this year they're just, they got Tua's brother as the quarterback at Maryland, right? So, they're going in undefeated, but they got to play at the Horseshoe at Ohio State, but that's what makes college football so awesome. So there's great games today, but the marquee game is Oklahoma at Texas. And I think a lot of people are picking Texas. I'm going to go with Oklahoma today. That's who I'm going with.
I'm taking Texas. Texas looks like the better team, and they're home. Texas.
Okay. Red River Rivalry today.
All right.
12 o'clock on CBS.
I thought ESPN.
So let's move on to the big boy league, right?
All right.
You had a good monologue. There was a lot of things going on, right? My Giants are struggling.
Yeah.
But your guy Geno Smith, I guess. The interesting thing about that game is not only did Geno Smith look better than I thought last year was his career year. It was kind of a fluke, but he's actually playing pretty well. Got hurt. They bring in Drew Lock, and they made him look like Joe Montana. It was amazing.
Right.
So,
number one, Redo Bet Life Same had the worst turf in the world, regardless of who plays there. Giants, Jets, college football, no matter what. It was a horrible stadium to begin with. So you're expected to get injured no matter what player you are because it's the worst field. But I'm glad Geno Smith is okay. I'm glad he's okay and back to normal. One thing I was disappointed with was Jamal Adams. First drive of the game, he's in the medical tent already. And the worst part is not only was he he could get back soon. It was just a concussion. He was fighting with the doctors of the Seattle Seahawks. So the fact that he did that, I lost my respect for Jamal Adams. And also, the Seahawks are on bye this week, and yeah, he should face a punishment because that is rude. The doctors are trying all they could. You have a bye this week. You ain't missing much, and that was a disgrace and an upsetting moment to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was caught on TV, and he ended up backtracking and apologizing. But,
that ain't going to do it.
All these guys are trying to do is keep these players safe. That's all. And
that's all they're doing. They're doing their job.
Right. So a couple other things, right? A couple of early season surprises, right? The Bengals are sitting at 1-3.
Yep.
I still think Joe Burrow is not 100% healthy, but I think
we knew that.
Joe Burrow is 1-3, and he doesn't want to be on the sidelines missing the playoffs. So he's going to turn this around. We'll do our picks in a little bit, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that he's healthy. And if that's the case, he's keeping it mum because he's a tough guy. But we'll see. They got a big game this week. If they go 1-4, then they're looking at, the same shotgun that the Giants are getting, that their season's getting blown away. So we'll see about that, right? But here was a pick, and I had this pick last week. I took Buffalo over Miami because I said, they laid 70 on the week before, but I'm not 100% sold on Miami as this dominating offense. I think the obituary for the Buffalo Bills was a little premature. I still think they got a solid team. They're getting Von Miller back. And Josh Allen looked like the Josh Allen of old. So he's relearning the position that made him successful under Brian Daboll. But don't dismiss them. They did have Tre'Davious White is actually lost for the season for the Bills. That's a big loss, no question about it. But the Bills are still a good team in the AFC. So I got that one right. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So listen, we're going to get the injuries. It happens all the time. So it's going to dictate things. But, when you look at some of the other teams around the league, Chicago Bears win their first game. So now everyone's back on the Justin Fields is the right guy, right? They lost 18 straight games before that. So they said.
I have to bring up a point. How do you lose the Denver Broncos after having such a great lead, go into Washington and blow them out? I am confused on all levels because this was not the team that we saw last week. And I get it, it's the NFL, but
it's the NFL.
I'm aware of that. But I'm just saying, I just thought it was the weirdest thing in the world. It's like, how do you lose to the Denver Broncos out of all teams having a lead, go into Washington, who played well the past few games and looked like a joke? That was amazing.
That's why I always say, and my feelings on DraftKings and all that nonsense, and them being in partnership with the NFL. It's just so hypocritical.
But they weren't even favored, though. Washington was.
But that just lends credence to the statement I said 100 times. You can't make a living betting on the National Football League because it just doesn't work. Period.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So, like I said, we'll see. We're still waiting for Kenny Pickett to develop. I'm still a big fan of his. I think he can be successful with Mike Tomlin, but they got a long way to go.
He could be, but now is not the time.
Yeah. So give me one other Eli surprise at 5 weeks into the season. Who's the biggest surprise, or who's the
biggest surprise? Well, honestly, a big disappointment for me would be, if I had to give a guess, I'll say two teams. Jaguars, because I thought, again, another playoff team, looked horrible for a few games, win against teams that makes sense, but another surprise team there. But the biggest one for me, I think, is the Panthers. You have a good quarterback, coming out of a draft pick. I know the coach is not everybody's favorite. Nobody likes him, but I don't know. I'm just so disappointed with them, and their schedule gets worse. They had easy chances. They should have won last week versus my Minnesota, but I think that's my biggest one, where it's like, another big disappointment there. And I'd say
Yeah,
Denver too. Denver is a disappointment. And now it clearly shows it ain't the coach. It's the coach who's doing good, but I think it's the quarterback. But we knew that from day one.
yeah, yeah. I would probably say, when I look across the landscape of the National Football League, the fact that Dallas is, playing very well. They got a great defense now, and Dak's having kind of a career year. That's a surprise for me, even though I said the Philadelphia Eagles are clearly the best team, I think, in
Right.
the NFC. And the jury's still out on Detroit. Everybody wants to put them in, but the team that you mentioned earlier with Jacksonville, I think right. They were all expecting. I'm just still not 100% sure that Trevor
Right.
Lawrence is going to be that top 5 quarterback in the league with guys like Burrow, Allen, Mahomes. I don't know. He has the potential, but I think that's kind of me for right now. I would have expected them to be 3-1 at this point, and they got a tough game against Buffalo in
Yeah.
London.
Yeah. 9:30 in the morning, and the beer sales will be on sale early.
Uh,
8 in the
okay, so I'm going to bring this up because
because
you know what? I'll bring it up in a little bit because it relates back to this about the Sunday games in London, and I'll bring it up in random points of interest.
all
But
right.
we got to do
Yeah, I'm
our
gonna
picks.
let me do just a few quick notes for football before we end off to get to the picks. Jimmy Garoppolo cleared concussion protocol, will play this weekend versus the Packers on Monday night.
He'll play.
49ers.
He'll play 1 quarter and then be out of the game, guaranteed.
Okay, good pick. 49ers are trading a 7th round 2024 pick for Denver's Randy Gregory, the defensive end that happened last night. Jets cornerback DJ Reed is out for this Sunday's game versus the Broncos. The Bears are trading wide receiver Chase Claypool to Miami Dolphins in exchange for draft picks, TBD on which ones. And the
He's
Chicago
a head
Bears,
case.
yeah. The NFL pushed its TV broadcast networks to promote Taylor Swift's movie promo last week. CBS and Fox denied it. NBC and ESPN agreed and showed promos during the commercials. And just to let you know, as Giants fan, as a Seahawks fan going to the Giants game, the Giants fans and Seahawks fans booed the Taylor Swift commercial once it played on the big screen there. So that's something you don't see every day. They were booing last night. And Patriots are trading draft picks for Chargers cornerback J.C. Jackson.
Okay, good notes, good transaction notes. And yeah, so just like I said, the Giants have a tough game. Andrew Thomas has already been ruled out, so the already decimated and the Evan Neal controversy and all that kind of stuff is something they have to overcome. Overcome. So listen, let's do our picks. So last week, unfortunately, Eli, we all got to take our medicine at times.
Yeah.
So the three games, Jim was 2-1, and Eli came up with the goose egg.
Yeah, I feel like the Giants that weekend.
I know. Well, it may happen to me at some point during the season, but right now,
we'll see what happens.
It's not happening. So anyway, so I got 3 games I want to put on my Jim's locks list, I guess as they call it, right? So we got Jacksonville, like I said, and Buffalo in London. And again, what's ironic, this is the first time an NFL franchise has played in London 2 consecutive weeks. So this is the second game for Jacksonville in London.
At Totem Stadium, not Wembley. So that's something else.
Yeah, this one's Tottenham Stadium.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. But I'm taking the Buffalo Bills, and I like them.
Yeah.
Carolina at Detroit. And again, I don't know what to make of Detroit yet. I just don't know if they're legitimately as good as people are saying. I have a hard time putting confidence in Jared Goff, but I'm not seeing enough. I like Bryce Young at Carolina, but I don't see enough around him to win. So I'm taking the Lions this week.
Yeah.
And then there's the marquee game, right? Dallas, San Francisco. And this goes back many, 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 many years. Seen these guys play 100 times. I'm going with Dallas for the upset on the road in San Francisco.
All right.
So
All
you
right.
got my picks. I got Buffalo, Detroit, and Dallas. And who do you got?
I'm taking the Buffalo Bills over the Jacksonville Jaguars, 28-16. Buffalo looks like the better team. Jacksonville, they got a win last week in London. They play better in London. However, I think Buffalo seems like they're the team. They're the team. They're that team that's going to fight, and hopefully we'll see them in the Super Bowl this year.
What
I'm
I've
going to
been
also
telling you.
take the Detroit Lions, 31-20. Detroit's the better team. After Carolina's disappointing performance, I don't even know if there's a chance to pick them again. If they lost to the Minnesota Vikings, after having a good lead, I don't know how much I could take them and trust them. I got to take the Lions 31-20. And unfortunately, I know I'm a Seahawks fan, but I know the 49ers are the better team, and you have to do what you got to do to get a win. So 49ers 35-30 over the Dallas Cowboys. And as a bonus pick, I'm taking the Cardinals as the upset of the week over the Cincinnati Bengals 30-26.
Wow. Okay, that's a bold pick because I'm not seeing much with Arizona. So I mean, I know they've been playing some teams closely and tough, but Joe Burrow's on a mission. Joe Burrow is not going to go 1-4. He's going to win this game.
So you're picking Cincinnati?
I absolutely am.
Wow.
Absolutely am.
All right.
Right?
Agree to disagree. We'll find out what's the right answer.
Okay, so let's move on real quick. We'll wrap up with high school football. You and I talked earlier, right? This is kind of a bye week for the big teams in Jersey, the St. Joe's, the Bergen Catholics, the Don Boscos. But the game of the year in New Jersey will be next week with St. Joe's has to face the number one team in the state, Bergen Catholic. Should be a great game. It'll be packed.
I am for sure watching that one.
Yeah, that'll be broadcast live, I'm sure, on NJ.com, high school football.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's good. They got to, and then like I said, you and I talked about this. The schedule these teams play, it's like almost an SEC type schedule, week after week after week.
Right.
And these are the best players in New Jersey. So you see the best football. So high school football is awesome. So I wanted to give a shout out and
yeah. For the St. Mary's side of high school football, they lost to Hasbrook Heights in their league crossover yesterday. 28-11 was the final. Special teams were the answer yesterday with a safety and a 97, almost a 90-yard touchdown on off the return and a field goal for 3 points. They were good. They were good yesterday. The league crossovers continue next week for St. Mary's. They have Beckton 7:00 on Friday before getting back home to play New Milford on the 21st. Big schedule coming up for the league crossovers. Easy, not easy teams, but equally matched teams are playing St. Mary's 3-3, and it was entering yesterday's game. I'm not sure how New Milford did, and Beckton, but we'll find out right after the show how they did and how they will affect St. Mary's going into the final 2 league crossovers games pending playoffs.
Hey, listen, and by the way, we'd love for our loyal listeners outside of the state of New Jersey to send us an email or comments about, who are the best teams in their state,
right. Or if or a different school in our area, because I'm sure there's a lot more out there and we don't obviously cover everything. So we would love to hear what your thoughts are.
Oh, no question. I mean, when you look at the number one team in the country in high school football, it's made or die. Right. Yes. And then you have Chaminade, Madonna, you have IMG. I mean, these are football factories. And St. Joseph Prep down in Philadelphia. I mean, these guys, there are a bunch of NFL players on those teams today that'll be in the league 4 or 5 years from now. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email at sportswithmono@gmail.com. I know James Walsh is out there in Long Island. I'd love to hear his thoughts on who the powerhouse is out in Long Island. We'd love to hear from everybody. We know we have Tony out there in Washington State. Let us know, Tony. You've been a little quiet lately, so let us know about, she's a 49ers fan, so she's going to be bummed at me because I picked the Cowboys this week. This is Tony, one of our loyal listeners.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's move on to random points of interest. I got a couple of them. I just wanted to mention, I was at the St. Joe's game and I saw the former head coach, Augie Hoffman there, who was on Greg Schiano's staff at Rutgers. And of course, our random points of interest is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And I had a chance to talk to Augie. He's no longer with the Rutgers program, but he's now has a position with the Columbia University football team. So I wish him all the best.
Right.
He's a long time St. Joe's guy and played in the NFL for quite a few years, and just one of the nicest guys you could meet in the business. So wanted to give a shout out and good luck. And I also did have an opportunity to talk with my former football coach from way, way back. And, it's so amazing. And this is Bert Ammerman, and Bert's going to be on the show at some point. But we just had great nostalgic conversations. It's amazing how he remembers every play. This is from 45 years ago. Amazing guy. Great to see him. And I was actually saw, how we brought up Luke Whippler, who's now on the Cleveland Browns, St. Joe's guy. I had an opportunity to spend the day watching the game with his father, Robert, and he's ecstatic about Luke making the team. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that was what I was going to bring up before when you mentioned last week. It was the Jacksonville Atlanta game in Wembley Stadium. And we've talked about that this stuff is coming. That's the first game I believe that I can remember that it was not on television accessible unless you had to pay for ESPN Plus.
Correct.
And I never recall it. So I don't even know if the Buffalo Bills Jacksonville game is going to be broadcast tomorrow.
So last week, part of ESPN's deal with the National Football League guarantees them every year one ESPN Plus game, plus Monday Night Football coverage, and 2 weeks of double headers on Monday night. Plus, on top of that, they get the wild card and divisional round game and Super Bowl beginning 2026. That was only for one game. Going forward, the rest of the Germany games and London games will be on NFL Network. So tomorrow's game is 9:30 a.m. on NFL Network only. And if you are in the markets of Jacksonville and Buffalo and wherever your teams are, you will have local coverage on either Fox channels or ABC channels. So take a look at that of your local area. Unfortunately for us in the New Jersey area, we will have to watch on NFL Network, but that is free to if you have your sports package part of your cable provider.
Yeah.
Or NFL Plus if you have NFL Plus, which I do. So you can watch it on your phone or computer.
Right, but I did not have ESPN Plus, therefore I was not able to watch that game last week.
I had Disney Plus, so I watched the Toy Story broadcast because they did Toy Story last week.
How was that?
I'll be honest with you. I was a little disappointed, but happy. Disappointed because I like the NHL's version of the Big City Greens animated one better than the NFL, but I really like Slinky Dog as the chain. That was creative. I thought that was creative. A lot of technical issues, very fun, but I wish the actual Toy Story characters would do and have more of a role like Big City Greens had with the NHL. They were just like dancing when somebody scored a touchdown. I wasn't like into it as much, but great job by Disney. Record views on ESPN Plus and Disney Plus.
No, great concept for kids and stuff. I mean,
my question was, when are they doing the NBA? They did NHL, they did NFL. When's NBA starting with the?
That's in the works right now. You know that's coming.
All right, which Disney which Disney movie is gonna make it? That's the next question.
Who knows? Yeah, who knows?
All right.
But anyway, couple other quick random notes. Talk about baseball, right? And we were talking, it was the smallest crowd ever for a Major League Baseball playoff game in 100 years. And that was Texas at Tampa. And, I guess they just, as good as Tampa was this year, people don't go to the games there. And now they're going to build a new stadium in St. Petersburg, I think. So anyway, there's a comment from Jeremy Bennett, and it says, "Get better, Steve." And you know what? He is getting better, and I appreciate that, all the support. Jeremy, thank you very, very much.
And he also said that
he's coming out on a limb saying, Texas A&M is going to down Alabama, and I say, will not happen. Anyway.
Wow.
A couple other quick points here. So smallest crowd ever, 19,000 at a Major League Baseball playoff game. Incredible.
Highest in London for
and this
football.
the NBA, the NHL season starts this week, right? So
Yes.
lot of stuff.
I got
Las
points.
Vegas is defending their Stanley Cup champion after only 6 years in the league, which is great. And but I think the biggest storyline in this upcoming season is the Boston Bruins, who had a record-setting year last year, most points ever, but get bounced out in the playoffs, and they lost Pasternak and they, Krejci, and they traded Taylor Hall. So, they're basically gutted it and restarting it because what they had, as great as they looked all season, they couldn't win the Stanley Cup. So we'll keep an eye on that. And the WNBA finals begin this week with the New York Liberty versus the Las Vegas Aces, which is exactly what the WNBA and wanted to have happen because it's the most two star-studded lineups, and it should be a good series. I don't know how much of it I'll watch, but anyway, so that's the random point.
All right, I'll give some of my random points as well. Peacock is now the exclusive home to 30 plus Big Ten men's basketball games that'll begin in this upcoming season. Big Ten, huge sport for college basketball. Peacock is owned by NBC Sports, and now we'll have college sports, basketball.
Well, let me guess. You have to pay for Peacock, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
All right. Joel Embiid from the 76ers has agreed to play for Team USA in the 2024 Paris Olympics. The WNBA has announced that it has approved the Golden State Warriors to bring an expansion team for women's basketball to the Bay Area by 2025. So that is exciting news. Michael Jordan is now qualified to be one of the 400 wealthiest people in America, making $3 billion.
Oh, nice.
The San Antonio Spurs guard Devin Vassell agreed to a 5-year, $146 million deal. Another big extension. And
another big extension with tons of money for a guy I've never even heard of.
Exactly. And game 1 of 5 of the WNBA playoffs kicks off tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, featuring the New York Liberty at the Las Vegas Aces. And 2 more quick notes. As you mentioned, hockey begins this weekend on Tuesday with a triple header on ESPN. The Devils so far went perfect, ending their preseason 7-0 without a loss. Super excited. It's going to be a great year. As long as they don't end in first place, I'll be okay. The reason why I say that is because the President's Trophy curse. And finally, the NHL and ESPN will be doing NHL Red Zone, called ESPN and ESPN Plus, ESPN2 will be debuting NHL Red Zone called Frozen Frenzy, and it will occur on October 24th only. And that's because every single NHL team plays that day. So they figured, let's do Red Zone, but hockey version. So they will have all the games live on ESPN2 and ESPN Red Zone style, called Frozen Frenzy, on October 24th. It'll be a big test, and we'll see if the NHL and ESPN could make an agreement and continue doing that in the near future.
I thought a good name for that would be In the Net, something like that,
Yeah, I don't know. What would be, I don't know. I don't know what would be a good name to describe it.
I thought In the Net would be a great one. Right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right,
that sounds good, though. But yeah, I got to think of a name for next week.
Well, we'll have to ask our buddy Ardo Ocal.
Yeah, that's right. What would he think of it? Right.
That's right. Very good. He may even be involved in it.
That's true. We don't know. They only said that Kevin was the only one so far. Forget his last name, but Kevin was the main star for it. I think there could be more guys. So
okay.
Yeah.
So we do our movie recommendation, and I have one for. And again, we're sticking with the themes. And is this up there with Rudy and Hoosiers? No, but it's an entertaining movie, right? One of the biggest stars is Tom Cruise. You can't deny it. The guy's a little kooky, but he's made some good movies. But there was a movie back in 1983. He was very young, called All the Right Moves, and it was from like a steel town in Pennsylvania, and a kid making it big. It's actually a pretty good movie. Craig T. Nelson played his coach and stuff. Well, it's well worth a watch if you're flipping around looking for sports movies, and maybe Eli can give us the sports movie recommendation next week. Right?
Yeah, I'll have one next week for sure.
Okay. So Unfortunately, and we talk about it when it's a quiet week, we love it. When it's not a quiet week, we don't, right?
We
Notable
hate it.
passing. And this week was
A rough
unfortunately
one.
some notable names, and let me go through them here.
Yeah.
Tim Wakefield, right? Best known as
Yep.
one of the premier knuckleball pitchers for many years, two-time World Series champion with the Boston Red Sox. And he was just a tough guy to hit. 57 years old, and succumbed to brain tumor. And 57. And what I didn't realize, he has the most starts for any Red Sox pitcher all time. And I couldn't believe that. And the most innings pitched by any Boston Red Sox pitcher of all time. So that's certainly notable for a guy that had a great career
Absolutely.
and was a World Series champ. So all our best goes out to his family. That was a big surprise. From the world of the NFL, now I'm not sure Eli certainly doesn't remember this guy as a
No.
player. It was Russ Francis, and
Okay.
I know your father David knows who Russ Francis was. He was number one pick for the Patriots, but won a Super Bowl with the San Francisco 49ers, and he was one of the best tight ends in the game and during his era. And unfortunately, just a tragic event, a plane crash takes him down at age 70. But what a tight end he was in the NFL. And I know he doesn't get any mention for Hall of Fame like these other guys do, but to us, from a Monahan perspective, we admired that guy, and he was a tough guy. And unfortunately, a plane crash takes his life at the age of 70.
Wow.
And then one other big one, and this was a real big one for us and my brothers, because we watched this guy. I watched him at the tail end of his career, but Dick Butkus passed away at 80.
Yeah.
And Dick Butkus was one of the most feared players on an NFL football field that there was in the game. He came up out of Illinois, so he's a hometown guy, played for the Bears, known as Mr. Chicago and Chicago's son. And hopefully you saw, Eli, some of the highlights of
I did.
Dick Butkus during the week. I mean, these were just absolutely ferocious tackles. And, obviously, the way he played, I don't think you can play that way in the NFL today now with the seriousness of this concussion stuff. But Dick Butkus, he was just flat out mean on a football field, but a great guy off the football field, and was known as, he did some NFL color commentary, and he was a big pitch man for products. And remember him, certainly the light beer from Miller commercials back in the day. He was on those, and just a great guy. He survived by his wife of 60 years, his high school sweetheart. And but on the football field, he was just ferocious. And like I said, I remember his last few years in the league, but he was suffering from knee injuries, which cut his career short. But you want to talk about, and we talk about this all the time, Dick Butkus was nominated for the Hall of Fame and went into the Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. That tells you that this guy was well respected.
Different.
Because I'm very particular about who gets in the Hall of Fame. But Dick Butkus, 80 years old, rest in peace, Mr. Chicago Bear.
Yeah. And one name I think you forgot, Chris Snow, a hockey executive for the Flames and the NHL, died on Saturday. He was born in 1981. Tributes have been going all around the NHL. Big name in there. And he died from ALS. So we thoughts and prayers. He was an NHL executive. He was worked with Flames, and
Yeah. And there was one other one, Jim Capel, who was an ESPN writer. I read some of his pieces over the years, very young.
Yep.
I mean, relatively young, 61. but he was with ESPN for a long time and certainly well respected. And like I said, Jim Capel was only 61 years old. So,
Right.
Wow, there was a lot of stuff we covered today, Eli.
Yeah. Huge.
Well, let's end it. Let's end it on a positive note. So I have a picture I sent you, and this is
Yes.
I guess this is what 6-year-old girls do now. They go to beauty parlors. See,
Yeah.
the reason I picked this one because look at the pink background and stuff, and it matches our
Breast cancer awareness.
colors
Yeah.
of the show this week. So
if I'm not mistaken, I think that's in Paramus
that's
Park
my
Mall because I
that's
know
my
I go
adorable
to.
granddaughter Hayden, and she had a. I don't know where it was. I don't know.
I think that was Paramus Park Mall.
It's called
I
the
remember.
Princess Palace or something, but it's just so adorable.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah. And this was
that's
me
my
at Seattle.
6-year-old granddaughter Hayden getting pampered, and I love it. Yeah.
That was me at Seattle Seahawks watching the Giants game.
Oh, who's this picture? Is that you?
Yeah, that's me. Seattle Seahawks Giants.
Oh, wow. You look a little different at the game.
Yeah.
Who was number 12?
Nobody. They was just a shirt.
Who wore number 12?
They retired. Nobody. They were just like out of respect. Like they're known for the 12s. Seattle. So I found the jersey that says 12.
Oh, that's the 12th man jersey, right?
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Listen, so we covered a lot, and we're going to be back next week at 10 o'clock, right? And the following week we'll have
10
to do
o'clock
9 because you have a game to call.
Yes.
Right? But like I said, everybody,
Yes,
thanks for the support. The show is getting popular, and a lot of people are talking about it. And I have some young fellas at work.
Yes.
Frankie and Derek, and these young guys that enjoy listening to the show, and I think they learn something every week, and I appreciate their support. They're great young men, and the future professionals of the next generation. So, but I enjoy talking sports with guys. And like I said, they're not much older than you, so they have the enthusiasm that you do. And by the way, again, great touch with the pink
Thank you.
logo today. It was awesome. Have yourself a great weekend. There's a lot of things. So hopefully people will be watching. We'll be talking about Oklahoma and Texas next week.
Yes.
And anything else that happens between now and this time next week, we'll cover
We'll be sure to tell you and bring it all down. And thank you again for watching, everyone, and really appreciate all the views today.
Me too. Thank you very much. So
have a good
catch
night.
us, send us emails. You know how to reach us. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thank you.
All right.
Have a good weekend, Eli.